So Pete Buttigieg, another person that's running for president in the Democratic primary, he is still seems to be doing pretty decent in the polls, in the kind of, I guess, the general like average of the polls that's being done, and he's also garnering a lot of celebrity donors, so celebrity like donations and stuff from rich elitists and stuff in Hollywood, and as well as like the whatever CEOs of big banks, and then he puts the former, the former executives from Goldman Sachs and stuff in his cabinet and stuff. So Pete Buttigieg he's just a pathetic sellout. I can't stand this guy, and he's doing more to, I guess you could call, rig the process a little bit more, and obviously trying to just get all the, get all his little tasks, done, take him off the checklist. And one of those things is superdelegates. And so according to this article, I'm going to read you guys, he is going out and trying to get the early support of superdelegates. Obviously the people that are going to be, they're part of the establishment, and those are the people that are going to basically hand over the election to the main establishment figure that is going to be doing well. And as many of you guys remember, in 2016, Hillary Clinton got so much early support from superdelegates, and the media was reporting on it as if it was like legit, as they were counting those superdelegate votes in the tallies when they were showing. When they were doing like their news reports and their segments and stuff, they were showing the superdelegates as actual votes that were already tallied. So they were saying, oh, well, these are the number of votes that Hillary Clinton has over Bernie Sanders, and they were counting the superdelegate votes. So they made all these, idiots and rubes out there that are watching these, mainstream media segments, and then convincing them that Hillary Clinton is ahead by, hundreds and hundreds of delegates when they're counting the superdelegates on top of the pledged delegates. And it was ridiculous. So people already those idiots must have already assumed that Hillary Clinton had won. So it was crazy, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they do the same thing this time. I just don't think they're going to be able to get away with it as easily, and the media's going to know that they're going to get caught for that, especially if Bernie's campaign and stuff calls them out for that and shit. So, and maybe another maybe Tulsi Gabbard or something will do the same thing. We'll see, but I know Bernie Sanders, considering how much he's gone after the media, mainstream media and stuff, for how they've covered things, and especially covering him, I'm sure he'll call them out for that. And to an extent, they did that in 2016 too, but they'll do it even harder this time. So, and that's something he definitely should be doing. But I want to read you guys this article about Pete Buttigieg trying to kind of garner this support from superdelegates, and we'll discuss it as we read along. So the article is from AP News, apnews.com. It says Buttigieg ramps up outreach to Democratic superdelegates. And the body of the article is very, very short. And it says, this is apparently in Des Moines, Iowa. It says Pete Buttigieg is ramping up his outreach to the Democratic Party superdelegates with a phone call to them outlining the scope of his 2020 presidential campaign. The outreach suggests Buttigieg's campaign is looking beyond the early primary states to the possibility of a convention fight for the nomination. Superdelegates, who include Democratic National Committee members, elected officials, and other party dignitaries, have historically held an outsized influence over the nominating process. Top members of his staff introduced themselves Monday, with campaign manager Mike Schmuhl saying the campaign now employs 240 staffers, 37% of whom are people of color and 28% of whom are LGBTQ. A majority are women. The South Bend, Indiana mayor says he sees a, quote, great opportunity, end quote, in being relatively unknown because, quote, we've got a lot of room to grow, end quote. Yeah, so, that's, first of all, when it comes to the whole thing that he's doing with superdelegates, that's not surprising at all. He's obviously, these establishment types are going to try and get the support of these these people as quickly as possible. They're going to, they're going to try to get that support as out of the way, right? Get it off that checklist so that they can, they don't have to worry about it later because they know that's going to put them over the top to win. And like I said, in 2016, that's what got Hillary Clinton the win. And I guarantee Pete Buttigieg is looking at this. He's looking at this the same way Hillary Clinton did. And Hillary Clinton probably actually did it earlier than this. I wouldn't be surprised. And the ironic thing, by the way, you got to remember, the ironic thing is that Pete Buttigieg, he actually ran for the head of the DNC against like Tom Perez and Keith Ellison and stuff in after 2016. So in 2017, when obviously Debbie Wasserman Schultz got ousted, she basically resigned, I think if I remember correctly, and then Donna Brazile was put in as the interim chair of the DNC, so they had to find a new DNC chair. Eventually, they went with Tom Perez. But within those people that were running was Tom Perez, Keith Ellison, Pete Buttigieg. So my guess is, honestly, now that I think about it, you put two and two together, he probably has a lot of good relationships with heads of the DNC and party kind of establishment types who are also very friendly with the DNC. So he is trying to garner that support so that he can, obviously get ahead. But it's almost like he has a little bit of a leg up because he's able to, he has the relationships, possibly, I'm just guessing, but he possibly has these relationships with these people in the DNC when he, decided to run. And, I don't think the things that he was pushing for was as bad as they are right now, but it was probably close enough. And even so, it doesn't matter because now his policies have gone much more to the right when it comes to what he advocates for and the fact that he is willing to be much more of a shill for the establishment. And like I said, hiring the people that he did for, that used to work for Goldman Sachs and all that stuff. So he's clearly willing to sell himself, sell his soul to get what he wants. And that's not something that he's shying away from, clearly. I mean, at the end of the day, these guys like Pete Buttigieg, they don't really care about being principled and doing the things that's going to be better for the country or the people in this country. He wants to do what's going to be beneficial for him, right? He's going to do the things that he knows that ultimately helps his political ambitions, right? And the things that he knows that can get him ahead. And if he has to sell out to Goldman Sachs, former Goldman Sachs employees and hire them on his campaign, just like, Joe Biden goes and hires former Bush officials. If these people have to do these things, they're going to do it. They do it not carelessly, but they do it kind of heartlessly and just like, they don't give a shit. They're just like, who cares? You have an issue with it, then fuck off, basically. That's what it seems to be that they kind of believe. They just don't really give a damn if people have issues with it because they're like, oh, well, don't worry. I'm a good person. I'm not as bad as Trump, right? I'm not a racist and a sexist and a misogynist, white supremacist, whatever you want to call him. We're not that bad. We're a lot better than that asshole. See, that's how low the bar is. The bar is so incredibly and pathetically low that they're willing to be like it's as if like they're using that as pretending as if that's like a legitimate excuse because you're not as bad as Trump. So yeah, but when it comes to somebody like Buttigieg, you can't trust this guy. He's a total sleazeball. I just don't. I look at him, Beto O'Rourke, I look at obviously Joe Biden. These kind of people, they just they don't care for any kind of. They don't care for having principles. Excuse me. They don't care about standing up for things that are truly right. They claim to, but they don't really do it. They just do it to some tiny, small extent that is going to make them, whatever, the nominee for this party. But at the end of the day, they're not going to truly stand up and be like, okay, this is, I'm standing up for, let's say, unions. I'm standing up for the rights for unions to get better wages and, to get treated better by their employers and, Medicare for all, and tuition-free college, a living wage, kind of the same things that Bernie Sanders does. Ending the wars like Bernie Sanders tells you ever do. Those kind of things. Regulating Wall Street. These aren't they. A lot of times, what they do is, as many of you guys know, is these politicians, the sleazy ones, they put. Kamala Harris is the same exact way. Everything that they say, they put everything into terms of very vague terms. Everything is very kind of just like, you don't give too many details. You just give a little bit of details. You give a little bit of facts and kind of the things that you stand for. And they put very little stuff out there for you because they don't want to commit to anything 100%. Which, okay, fine. If you don't want to be 100% for something, fine. But they're not even close to 100%. They're 50%, And they don't put out all the stuff out there for you to truly understand what their position is. Because ultimately what their positions are going to be to sell out. They want to be sellouts. That's what they are. They're sellouts to the establishment. That's why they are sellouts to the establishment. That's what they believe in, because that's who they are. They are the establishment. They're part of the establishment. And they need to do the bidding of the people that are going to pay their, not pay their bills, but basically pay for their existence in this system, right? So the people that are the donors, the people that give to their super PACs, the people that do fundraisers for them and stuff, these are the people that they have to suck up to. They can't suck up to the regular people like you and me, or the people out there that are going to rallies and, asking them, legitimate questions and stuff. When somebody like Kamala Harris gets asked, Kamala Harris or Pete Buttigieg and all these people get asked legitimate questions, they end up putting their foot in their mouths and they say things that it just, doesn't make any sense, or it's just ridiculous. And it's, it's totally causes them to essentially, make another gaffe, essentially, which a lot of them end up doing. And when it comes to the actual progressives out there that are, really truly have principles, those people don't need to make gaffes. They don't make gaffes. Those people, because the reason why somebody like Bernie Sanders doesn't make gaffes, he might be a little bit too honest sometimes, but, as far as saying just whatever he's saying, just kind of, shooting from the hip and stuff. But when, sometimes when Bernie Sanders might make a so-called gaffe, he's just being too honest. But all these other people, they make gaffes because they don't believe in anything. So, and they don't have a principled view of, issue X or issue Y or issue Z. And they have to go out there and they have to say what's going to please their donors, what's going to please the establishment, what's going to please certain people in those, let's say, those crowds that they're speaking to from that state. Because that's what happened to what's her name, to Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris made a she made her now infamous statement during the first debate with Joe Biden, when she called him out for supporting, for being anti-busing, and working with white segregationists. And she, called him out for that, and she said, I was one of the children, I was one of those little girls that, benefited from busing during that time. And then what does she do when she goes to, I think it was Iowa or somewhere? She was giving a speech to people and said, no, I don't. I'm sorry. What I wanted to say was that after making that statement in the debate with Biden, she said, I support federally mandated busing. So federally mandated busing was something that she put her foot down and said, this is what I support. But then when she gave this speech in Iowa or wherever it was, and I talked about this on my show too, she was talking to a crowd of people and she says, no, I don't support federally mandated busing. I think those things should be decided by the district or the state or something like that. So all of a sudden she's not into federally mandated busing because she's talking to a crowd or talking to an audience or people that don't support that. So she believes you know what, I should probably tone down my my rhetoric and not say things that maybe this specific crowd of maybe more white people, they might not support that. So I should tone it down and say something a little bit, it's a little bit different, because it's not that different. She still believes in, mandating busing, but she wants it to be done by the states. Did the media ever call her out for that? No. That one outlet, I think, may have been AP too as well. AP News as well. I think they were the only ones who reported on it, but they never called. She never got called out for it. No, did the show on MSNBC call her out for that? Did any MSNBC hosts criticize her? Did Joanne Reid say anything? Did Zerlina Maxwell say anything? No, they didn't say that because they don't care. They don't care that she has a position that's not consistent, especially when it comes to an issue that she's apparently so passionate about. But all of a sudden now she's just switching on that because she knows she's talking to a different constituency of people, and then she needs to cater to them, and that's fine if you want to do that on principle, if you want to cater to a specific constituency when you're representing that state. But this is just a speech she's giving, so why don't you just give the same kind of speech you did during the debate? Do you think nobody watched the debate? And that's the thing. That's what somebody like Kamala Harris does. Pete Buttigieg, when it comes to him, he does the same exact thing. And I guarantee you, when he's talking to these superdelegates, he's not saying the same exact thing he's saying in a speech to a bunch of regular people. When he's going and talking to the superdelegates, he's saying what they want to hear. He does this. He's guaranteed he's doing the same exact thing in fundraisers and other speeches that he's giving to rich assholes and CEOs and stuff like that. And that's what he does. And Pete Buttigieg doesn't care about regular people. He cares about doing the things that's going to benefit the well-to-do off and the people that are the super rich people that are funding his campaign, and the people that don't want to get their taxes raised and stuff. That's why he's getting support from rich donors and elitist celebrity donors, and those are the people that Pete Buttigieg is going to represent.